This is the new Pixel 8 Pro, Google's latest flagship device that the company is hoping disrupts the current smartphone lineup. I've had it for about a week now, and if I were to sum up my initial thoughts so far, the simplest way to put it is that Google is getting kind of weird again. And I mean that in a positive way. I appreciate and respect companies that try new things and focus in on the quirks, and the Pixel 8 Pro is a great illustration of that adventurous spirit that Google hasn't really shown in a while. Now, taking bigger leaps into untested waters does increase the risk to swing and miss, so it's an interesting bet Google is making here. So today I want to go over how my experience has been with the Pixel 8 Pro 1 week later to give you a better sense of whether or not this phone is right for you, and ultimately see if Google's latest flagship phone is worth it. And let's start with physical design. I know at first glance it looks pretty similar to the Pixels that came before it, but there are some subtle changes here that I'd be remiss if I didn't at least touch upon. Number one, it looks as though Google decided to go the more traditional route when talking form factor, as they very much rounded out the corners of the frame, so it's more similar to the iPhone than say the Galaxy Ultra. It's nice because you don't get any sharp pinching in the palm when you're holding the phone, but it does make the Pixel look less stealthier than previous generations. That said, however, probably my favorite new design choice with this phone is the matte finish on the back. It makes the Pixel 8 Pro look so much cleaner and refined, especially in this new bay blue color that has really grown on me. It also contrasts nicely against the polished aluminum frame and that signature camera bar Pixels are known for. The housing is still nicely integrated into the frame itself, and Google did one large cutout for all three cameras on the back this year rather than dividing them out, and I think it looks way better this way. Now, 1 week later, full transparency, I haven't been using a case on the Pixel 8 Pro, but I already have some micro scratches on the back panel, and the frame has been slightly chewed up here. It's not something new. The Pixels have been known to be a bit soft when it comes to durability, so keep that in mind. If you care about maintaining that fresh out the box look, you're likely going to want to use a case. But let's take a look at the front of the phone now. You still get a very generous 6.7-inch OLED panel that comes in at a resolution of 2992 by 1344, and a particular note this year, the Pixel 8 Pro has a completely flat display. I'm a big fan of this minor change. Yes, curved edges can make a phone look cool, but it's not my favorite when it comes to functionality. You get way less distortion with the flat screen, and I like that there's more of a uniform bezel this go around. You still get a very minimal hole punch cutout for the front-facing camera, so the display is quite immersive, and despite this being on the larger side of the size spectrum, it's a pretty comfortable phone to use with one hand. Plus, this is Google's new actual display that can get really bright, up to 2400 nits, which is pretty blinding. Now, you're not going to really notice it unless you're in direct sunlight for a long period of time, but it's good to see a bump in this particular area of the screen. And I'd say overall, from a design standpoint, even though this is a pretty minor change from last year, it seems as though Google was being really intentional about making their latest phone both look and feel a bit more mature. I like that it's not trying to be loud, but also maintain some of the Pixel's unique design elements, and it has all of the qualities you'd expect from a flagship phone going into 2024. But let's get into the features and performance of the Pixel 8 Pro, and the first thing to note is that this phone is rocking Google's latest in-house mobile processor, the Tensor G3. Generally speaking, I have mixed feelings when it comes to Tensor. It really hasn't lived up to the hype when it was first announced, but Google seems to have heard that early criticism and decided to really crank it up with the G3. First, we gotta talk about battery life, something that the Pixel isn't really praised for. I'm happy to say so far the Pixel 8 Pro is giving me a pretty solid 7 hours of screen on time, and to be fair, I was using it mostly outside in sunny LA, so it could probably do better when it's not in super bright environments for extended periods of time, and it's been great essentially having all-day battery life with this thing without any serious anxieties. But it is early, and this is one area of performance that I really need to evaluate over time, as battery performance on Pixels tend to slip the more and more you use the phones, but so far it's looking pretty dang good. And the regular day-to-day performance on the Pixel 8 Pro is great as well, as apps open up quickly, and navigating around Android 14 is a walk in the park. The 120Hz variable refresh rate still performs great, except for when I'm using Twitter, which isn't something new and is probably more Twitter's fault than Google's. Gaming on the Pixel 8 Pro is fun and engaging, and I haven't experienced any drop frames or jitters, even on relatively demanding options. You unfortunately still only have the optical in-display fingerprint reader that is not as fast or as secure as I'd like it to be, and one of the newest and weirdest additions I've seen on any phone is this new temperature sensor that's next to the flash. And after a week of using this thing, I'm kind of puzzled as to why this is even here. I feel as though the only use case for this would be to measure a person's temperature to see if they may be sick, but the sensors on the Pixel 8 Pro hasn't been certified to be able to do that accurately yet, and so far in my testing, the readings have been kind of inconsistent, so I'm not sure if I'd ever be able to trust it in those circumstances. But Google continues to flex its processing muscles on other unique software features that go beyond beyond the normal day-to-day and really focusing in on AI this year to take those features to the next level. So you still get the class-leading voice recording and translation capabilities, but going a step further, you can now have Google Assistant read articles for you that has actually been quite useful during my week of use. And what's kind of nuts is that it can also dictate the article in a different language, which is, no lie, pretty dang impressive. Another feature that is interesting is that you can create your own wallpapers using AI by selecting certain prompts. It's not perfect, but a really weird and kind of fun feature to play around with. But of course, the real fun and weirdness of the Pixel 8 Pro's features shine the brightest with their newest camera features. To start off, the Pixel 8 Pro comes with an updated camera suite boasting a new 50 megapixel main sensor and 48 megapixel sensors for both the ultra-wide and the 5x telephoto zoom. And 1 week later, taking still images with this phone has been great. You still get the class-leading pixel quality here as photos are sharp with really good contrast. You still have that slightly cooler temperature and really solid dynamic range. The Pixel 8 Pro also lets you access the Pro settings to change the default resolution to the full 50 megapixels or shoot in RAW, and overall the image quality continues to be exceptional across the Pixel lineup. And Google has focused heavily on giving users additional software features to tweak and modify their pictures that are actually quite effective. You still get Magic Eraser, which lets you erase a part of an image you don't want in a super easy way, and kind of in reverse to that, you now have a feature called Best Take that allows you to change faces on a group photo if multiple shots were taken. Now, I thought this was going to be a gimmick at first, but A, it's super easy to use, and B, it's surprisingly good from a quality standpoint. It doesn't look artificial or fake as I thought it would, and this is actually a lot more useful than you think, as getting a perfect group shot is really hard to do. And to really crank it up, Google added a new Magic Editor feature that gives you the ability to erase, move, or resize things in a photo. I'm just going to be straight up, this feature is not only weird, it's not the easiest thing to use, and it takes a long time for the Pixel 8 Pro to process your edits, which half the time don't even come out right, so I'm going to put this in the gimmick category for the here and now until it irons out some of the kinks. Now, when it comes to video, I'm happy to say that there finally seems to be a noticeable improvement in quality on the Pixel 8 Pro, as this is the best 4K footage I've seen coming out of any Pixel. First of all, it can finally shoot in 24 frames per second, which is my frame rate of choice, and it's gotten so much better at rendering colors and not overdoing it when it comes to processing. And good lighting, this is some of the best footage coming out of any smartphone that isn't an iPhone. And this is really encouraging to see because video is becoming more and more the dominant way in which we share and communicate with each other, and though it's still quite a distance away from what the newest iPhones could do, it's great that Google is finally trying here. So the Pixel 8 Pro 1 week later has been pretty great, a really fun phone to use considering that it's full of all these quirky features, but there is one more thing that I want to talk about here that I feel is always important, and that of course is the price. Google decided to up the price on their latest Pro variant, giving this phone a starting price tag of $999 US. Now that price is still relatively competitive given that this is the top end of the lineup and the phones that it most likely competes with are still more expensive. That said, with the regular Pixel 8 costing only $799 but with many of the same features, I feel as though that phone is the overall better pick when it comes to maximizing value. But I plan to do some thorough comparison videos between the Pixel 8 Pro and a variety of different competitors out there, so make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on those. And let me know what you guys think about the Pixel 8 Pro now that it's officially available. Do you think it's a worthy option going into 2024? Or do you think it's still behind the big boys like the iPhone and the Galaxy? Curious to get your thoughts, let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments down below. And in case you're interested in learning about the newest iPhones, take a look at these reviews here, they're going to help you be as informed as possible.